All right. Hey, guys, welcome to Hey Mama. Today I have a beloved friend and, professional peer who I just have so much respect for, Tyler Dorsey. And today we're just chatting.
Yeah.
For years now, I've always just I almost like verbally vomit with you. Like we see each
My
other
favorite.
and it's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. How are you doing? And then we share all this wild, wicked knowledge and we're like, bye, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
And so for gosh, past year, I'm like, I just want to sit down and chat because you always are a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, I feel the same about you. When I talk to my client, let's back up.
Okay.
Do you remember the first time we met?
I
don't remember.
I'm very menopause, Alzheimer's, so no.
Okay, I don't remember who introduced us. You're going to remember it as soon as I say it. I don't remember who introduced us. It might have been Becca. I don't think it was Becca. I don't remember who. Someone introduced us and was like, "You have to meet Emily."
Yeah.
So we went to Core Life.
We did.
You
and we
had
chatted.
those really cute earrings on that you ended up giving me.
I did. I sent you some.
You sent me some.
Yes, I remember that.
I will never forget. And Emily, mind you, at this point, I've been doing ADHD stuff for 10 years. Okay, I'm not new. And Emily starts talking about all of this central nervous system and how this can. And I remember I sat there and my mind was just trying to keep up. I was like,
yeah.
So I left and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get inside this woman's head. And so then I have a now soon to be 5-year-old. You started with him when he was 3, I think.
So he cannot be.
Yes, he'll be 5 in January.
Oh my gosh, he's a big boy.
I was like, okay, I see ADHD pieces, but I was like, I'm seeing more.
Yeah.
And so I immediately called you. And so I sat in every appointment and I just, she would either tell me stuff or I would drill her with questions.
Yeah.
And part of it was because I'm a mom and I want to be the best mom I can for my son. But then also part of it was okay, but hold up. I see this in my clients too.
True. Yeah.
And so now you have armed me with so much information on, which is why I sent the topic I sent today, which was emotional regulation through a coaching lens and then through an OT lens.
Yeah.
Because they have to work together.
They collaborate.
The mind and the body
well.
are one.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't just focus on the mind and think the body can catch up or focus on the body and think the mind can catch up. We have to do it together. And I knew that, which is why I went to you with Teddy. And then I was sold. And I was kind of okay, OT is just especially for younger kids.
Yeah.
OT is where you go. And let's get the parents the resources to do the mind while they go do OT stuff. Because I was telling her before we got on, my 5-year-old, he stopped working with you 6 months ago, maybe?
Yeah,
I think was
probably
we had our
summer,
last session.
This summer, probably, yeah.
Yeah, because he worked with you for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
This kid went from losing it all the time to he loses it because we can't get rid of our struggles.
No,
but he's like,
he's a very bright, emotionally centered baby too.
Oh, he sits there in the middle of losing it. He goes, "Mommy, my brain is telling me that it's crazy right now."
But tell me your mom is an ADHD coach without telling me your mom, right? I can verbalize how I feel because so many kids can't do that.
Well, and that's why I was so impressed. And honestly, that's what sold me on our combo.
Yeah.
That's what sold me because I'm an ADHD person. I grew up with
totally
chaos.
Diagnosed in the 80s.
I know. And so I knew there was a way.
Yeah.
But then to watch a 5-year-old be so in tune with his body and that when his body gets out of control, that means something's going on.
Yeah.
And then me to be able to give him the skill set to be okay, he's 5, so he can't fully tell me what his mind is saying. But he literally will be my brain is out of control right now.
Yeah.
Or my brain told me to do this or that. Now, we're in the excuse phase. And I'm no, that doesn't mean you still get to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there aren't repercussions.
Right.
But a big piece of that, I credit to the fact that you taught him how to feel and understand what his body was doing.
That interoception as occupational therapist. We talk about, because one thing I love is that you take a mosaic approach to every single client that comes your way. And you're educated on that because there are so many things that you and I do in combination. We work in tandem.
Yep.
And so, whether there's so many parents, I think sometimes they go immediately to that cognitive, you've got to learn this strategy and this strategy and this strategy. But how can you truly embrace those strategies if you have no idea internally what's going on or what your triggers are? I've had so many kids go, all of a sudden, I'm fine. And then I'm totally, I call it in the red zone, yelling and screaming.
Yes.
I don't get any warning.
Yes.
And that's where often you refer to me because you're like, well, mom's like, I'm trying the strategies, but my child has no idea what's going on inside.
Yep.
And that can be so tough for kids, I think.
It's so tough. And that's where I just am so locked in. And I would say I feel this way specifically about the kids that are in that elementary age range.
Yeah.
Middle school is when you start to get a little more complex, I'm going to say, because you could kind of go either way. But if I've got an elementary aged kid, I'm like, your child needs to go to OT. You need to come to me. Because in OT, your child can be like developing those skills to understand their body. Because think about impulses. If you think about impulses, it doesn't just start from like I'm frustrated, I'm going to go do this. There's no thought. It's just an immediate action.
Yeah.
But every impulse comes with a feeling first. It might happen in your throat. It might happen in your chest. It might happen. And what I notice is with our adults, they can identify where that is, but our kids can't. And in OT, you help them understand what their body is doing. And we call it our decision filter. That is the first piece of a decision filter before you can control your impulses.
Yeah.
Is to write, like, to me, the cue is what your body's doing.
Yeah.
And that's how I always know I need to slow down. I'm like, oh, I feel it right here. Or if I feel it in my chest, I'm like, impulse is coming on, and whatever comes out of my mouth is not going to be good. And so I know to keep it quiet.
I need a decision filter all the time here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what you've taught Teddy, and that's what you teach all of your kids is the OT version of that. In addition to how to get the wiggles out. I was telling her, I said, Teddy yesterday was bouncing from couch to couch, and my husband's getting frustrated. And I said, it is cold. It has been rainy. He has not been able to go outside.
Yeah.
And he said, Mom, my brain is just bouncing everywhere. He could communicate what he needed. Yeah. So usually we have a light post that is like 5 houses down. And so I say, Teddy, go run to the light post and come back.
And he went for it, didn't he?
Well, it was raining.
Oh, no.
So instead I got out our bounce house.
Okay.
And I was like, our bounce house is up for the week. And it got a little dangerous because I've got 3 kids under the age of 6. I got a 6, a 5, and a 2-year-old.
You ride on the wild side. You know, it's just
I know.
It's the way it goes.
They started crying, and I was like, hey, if you're the bounce house, you got to be willing to get hurt. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But he got his wiggles out. Yeah. And it was right before bed because I think I blew it up at 5:30, and I knew we could either fight bed or we could spend the next hour just being wild in the playroom with a little more, what do you want to call it?
My regulated body. Yeah. And I think that's one thing you and I talk a lot about is in my job, I can help get that nervous system regulated or really get down to the brain stem and help with those retained reflexes, because then hence comes your job, right? And that's, I think, where we work in tandem, because what I've discovered working with you is that you offer so many strategies, but also not only to the children, but to the parents. Because a lot of times we've talked about how, we have an ADHD child. We also have an ADHD parent, more than likely. And so they're just as dysregulated as their own kids.
Yep.
And how do you kind of sometimes feel like, what do you do in those cases when, kids are bouncing off the walls and you're like, okay, we're trying to apply our OT strategies, but the parents can't get there themselves?
Yeah. So that's actually why I also love sending that younger age specifically to OT, is because I'm like, let this tackle your child for right now.
Yeah.
And then let's go work on you and your own struggles with regulating, because my favorite part about a parent who has ADHD is that when you work through the process and you learn how to embed this new way of operating for yourself, like this new, almost upload a new software for yourself.
It's like a new operating system for an ADHD brain, because you don't have it, right? And someone has to teach you.
100%. And when you do that for yourself, you're going to understand what being through that process actually looks like, and coming out on the other side of organized chaos. I don't ever want to say you're not going to be in chaos, because non-ADHD people are in chaos.
We're constantly in chaos.
Exactly. It's just about you not feeling like the chaos is running you, and like you really can coordinate that chaos.
I love that. So you said it's not that the chaos is running you. So I think sometimes it is embracing that there's a balance of controlled chaos. Do you guys hear that? You can have controlled chaos and it's okay.
100%. And when you become someone who is an adult with ADHD, with a child with ADHD, who has learned how to coordinate your own chaos, you begin to understand what kind of, the coaching term for it is what kind of space you need to hold for your child.
Yeah.
What kind of, who you need to be, and when you need to let your child just kind of figure it out versus when you maybe need to step in.
Yeah.
And that's where the power lies. And that's why I'm like, a parent who is swimming in ADHD chaos and goes and does the work themselves will actually produce more results for their child than if you just send your child off to somebody.
Which makes sense, because I think in a lot of times in my cases, a lot of my parents have been like, I need OT. you know,
Yes.
and they said, I've needed OT my whole life.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. And then you find that like siblings are lining up for the brushing protocol. And then everybody is taking their deep breaths or utilizing
Yeah.
the zones of regulation. And I've even tested parents like their own reflexes, and they're like, oh my gosh, I still have retained ATNRs, and I'm dealing with my own neuroinflammation, because often when I have kiddos come in, I'm finding out they're sick. They have, you know, neurotoxins and they're full of inflammation. And then a mom's like, oh my gosh, I've been battling with autoimmune issues and IBS my whole life. And so what I love about what you and I do too, is that like we're helping the whole family.
Yes.
It's just not like, okay, we have to help the child here. It's everybody that's involved.
Yeah. Yep. And the same goes for like our non-ADHD parent, because there are households where two parents are non-ADHD and they have an ADHD child.
Yeah.
Because fun fact, ADHD, if like I have ADHD, but my sister and her husband do not. Because I have ADHD, my brother has ADHD, my mom has ADHD, their child can still get ADHD. That's how hereditary ADHD is.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. I believe it. My whole entire house has all kinds of ADHDs.
It's everywhere. And if you show up to a family reunion,
oh my gosh.
like, and mind you, you zoom out, my grandpa is one of 12. So if we go to that family reunion, where there's like 200 and something of us, at this point, there's probably closer to 300 or 400 of us.
Oh, geez.
You walk in and you're like, there is no way someone can make the argument that it's not hereditary. Like, it stems from like, you just walk in and it's all of us.
Yeah.
But that's where it's like, the power in the non-ADHD parent is we get to help you understand their lens so that you too can know how to show up for them. Because you don't just need to have ADHD and go through it yourself to be able to truly support your child.
Yeah. And
that's where I think OT is really cool, because you guys can like meet the child where they're at and give them those like understanding what their body's doing.
Yeah.
Well, we go help the parents be like, hey. And then our middle school kids, do you work with middle school kids? I think
we do. We do. We see more elementary age, but recently we've had a significant increase in a lot of the kiddos that are struggling with anxiety and ADHD. And what I've discovered is that they haven't had occupational therapy. They've been immediately put on medicine, and I'm not against medicine, but I guess what we're doing is this big cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
They're 6 and 7. They've been medicated and nothing is working. And then we're going back to, do you know what this feels like? And I use my tummy and my chest as an example, like what you talked about.
Because I feel it in my chest.
Yeah. Do you feel that feeling? Like, what do you mean?
Yes.
And then by that time, a lot of, even behaviors, maladaptive behaviors have stemmed. A lot of attachment challenges have happened with the parents. So we do see middle schoolers, but lately we've been seeing a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's a big issue, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's hard, and this is why I say middle school is more complex, high school gets even more complex, because at that point, there are ingrained patterns within the family that are playing such a big role, and possibly a bigger role in the chaos.
Yeah.
And it's not by any like fault to anyone. They were just doing what they could to survive, but it creates these patterns. I'll use like a personal example. My mom and dad were so supportive, but they also just like didn't know how to support me and ADHD. And so I remember I would always get in trouble, and I want to be very clear. I am very much if you mess up, you deserve the consequence on the other side of that. And also you deserve to work out what actually happened that made you make that choice. Like, I think both things need to happen at once. But what happened that made you make that choice, if I would say my side of it, they'd be like, oh, that's just an excuse. Or you're just, so I would get shut down.
Yeah.
And maybe it was an excuse, but my brain didn't know how to work through that. Like, it wasn't an intentional excuse. It was like, no, this is really my line of thinking. And I needed help unpacking that line of thinking. And so, but I would always be met with that's just an excuse. And then I'd be shut down. So then by the time I get to middle school and then high school, I knew I would get shut down and I wasn't understood. So then you get the bigger explosions. And so that's what I mean when I say like, it just gets a little more complex in that middle school and high school, because we have to break down our way of operating and rebuild it. And as a parent, to me, my opinion, it falls on you, the parent, to be the one to be okay that your child doesn't respond the way you want yet, because you have to rebuild that trust. And we're the older ones, we're the mature ones, we're the parents.
Right.
We have to be the ones who can say, you know what? It's okay that you don't trust this right now. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up. Like, if I've got to do this for 2 years before that trust is rebuilt, that's totally fine. And that's what I mean when I say it's just more complex, because the kid needs their work, but there's just more there at that
Well,
point.
I think something you mentioned was that by the time they get to in middle school, you have to go back and undo. And a lot of, and I love my parents, and I say this with the most kindness that I can. Everyone's looking for a quick fix, and I feel like that's why
Yes.
sometimes medication is given. Again, not against it, but okay, if we give them meds, sometimes that's a band-aid approach, because yes, it does help with regulation, but what about those executive, functioning
Yeah.
skills, and how do you undo some of those patterns, like you said, of communication and rewiring the processes of how you actually raise your ADHD child?
Yeah.
Because you've talked about there's struggles with organization, there's struggles with your mental thinking and how you approach something. Activity paralysis was a huge challenge in my home. When there was a request and an expectation, that demand of that activity completely was like, nope.
Yep.
And then I'll watch this paralysis happen. And as a
Yeah.
doer and as a mom, it was like, oh my gosh. And I immediately saw that as a willful disrespect.
Yes.
But you actually taught me just in conversation that it wasn't a pure willful disrespect. It was a true shutdown of the brain, of that software going, oh my gosh, there's an expectation. There is a demand.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get there. And I live in that true paralysis.
Yeah.
And as a mom, I was like, oh, well, how dare you? You're just doing it to goat me.
Right.
And then my response was, of course, then anger or a punishment. And then nothing ever got. And then the wagon wheel of almost dysfunction started.
Yeah. And that paralysis can look like silence. Like we're avoiding the conversation. We're ignoring our parent. And my 5-year-old, that paralysis looks like screaming in a tantrum. Like this morning, I made the mistake of not warning my kids yesterday that we go back to school today, because I was like,
no.
We'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, all of 3 of them melted. And my 6-year-old, my oldest, is my very regulated. So she caught on very fast.
I could see that. Yep.
Queen Bee has it. Took her about 20 minutes of like pouting. And then she was like, okay, I'm going to school today.
Right.
Teddy, all the way to school.
Oh, Theodore.
And I
love it.
And he was truly shut down, because he was like, but I'm not gonna be with mom and dad all day. I'm not gonna. And so I saw what his line of thinking was. And then I know this goes back to, I should have prepared him yesterday. I should be like, hey guys, just a reminder, tomorrow's school again. But he sat there and he's screaming, he's crying, he's yelling. Yeah. He's like hyperventilating, crying at this point. And I was like, buddy. And so again, my husband's getting a little frustrated, and then he like cools it because he realizes what's going on. But like, that's his paralysis. His brain shut down.
And then I get dysregulated, and I can't switch my thinking. I don't know what to do.
But what goes back to like my favorite thing. And this is a skill you get to learn. This is not like a unique Tyler thing.
Yeah.
But like in that moment, was it overstimulating for me? 100%. And also I was able to just like get through the moment and hold the space and be like, you get to have your tantrum right now, because like I can see it. First off, that is a big switch to go from a week off of school and all the fun to going back to school with no warning. But then also it's like, I knew I had 2 options. I could start his day off worse by yelling back and meeting, like matching his energy, or I could just let him have his moment and let him get through it. I did. You taught me this, where you squeeze his arms.
Yep. Big deep
you
pressure.
Taught me, yep.
Proprioceptive
so
input.
I'd say, come here. I'd say, take a big breath, blow out. And I'd like squeeze his arms. And eventually he got to a point to where he was calmer.
Yeah.
And then, because I know that the way we start off our morning is setting the tone for the whole day. And he already started it off bad. But that doesn't mean that there's not a way we can partially turn it around.
Well, I think what also you did was you validated, hey, buddy, I forgot to tell you. And I think a lot of times parents almost forget that you've got to validate how they feel. It's like someone taking your phone for the day or switching a whole meeting, but we've got a frontal lobe that can keep us from laying on the ground and screaming. And believe me, we all want to. Right. We say we don't, but you go to Nicholasville Road at Christmas time at the mall, we all want to have a full meltdown. And today you actually see it sometimes. And so I feel like as parents, there's a space of, hey, I actually did not prepare you. I am so sorry. Let's take a deep breath. Let's find, that's where OT and we come in on regulating the body. Do you need a hug? Do you need to get it out? Yeah. And I think too, it is okay for your kids to let it out. I've had kids scream in a pillow. I've had kids go to a punching bag. I've had kids, I'm angry, get it out. And just be like, okay, do you need 5 minutes? Yeah. Because boys also have a tendency, I call them to be feral beings, and they have that testosterone. And sometimes they need that, right? And there's, and I think sometimes as parents, like, oh my gosh, well, yeah, but that actually helps them a little bit. We're not saying
Yeah.
for them to go break things or throw
No.
things in the house, but what's wrong with, again, like you said, you held space for him.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, because then he's like, oh, I have a feeling of anger. I'm releasing it. Mom, help me, but I'm okay. I'm not starting my day in a horrible
Yeah.
situation.
Because he'll eventually get to a place where he's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
He's worn himself out. But the other reason, and again, there are boundaries with this. Like if he is hitting someone, if he is
life skills, you don't
knocking
hurt
down a
somebody.
door,
Yeah.
no, like there
You don't destroy
are
things.
boundaries. However, what I've noticed is, for myself included, when I can get those feelings out, I work through everything so much faster than if I were to go save him or someone were to come save me from my own feelings.
Yeah.
You don't learn the skill of regulation through being saved. You have to feel the feelings as intensely as you can.
Okay, please say that again. You do not learn
the skill of regulation through being saved. Like on any level, whether you're saving your child, whether you want saved yourself, like one of the things, and this is something my own coach taught me, was you have to be willing to feel the heaviest things. And that if you let yourself go there, that is when all of a sudden you get clear on what those feelings really are, and you can make a very intentional decision on what you want to do about it. But if you're constantly saved, you're going to be constantly in reaction mode. And when you're in reaction mode, your life is living you and you're not living your life.
You know, I think that's so huge, because some of my moms, they immediately want to save the little one in that meltdown, or they're even apologizing. And I'm like, but hey, you, at this point, you have to, you are teaching your child that you're making them, like, their nervous system. You are becoming your child's central nervous system. And then there's this anxiety piece that kicks in, and then they're attached to you, and then you're attached to them. And then like, and you're like, whoa. They don't trust themselves.
Right.
And because then all of a sudden they're relying upon you. And I think a lot of mamas, they're great, they're sweet, well wishes and everything. They want that. But you've got to let your kiddos sometimes have a little bit of that moment and that struggle, or even in that failure to some degree, because that's where confidence is built. That's where understanding your body is built. Because if we're always being reactive, like, oh my gosh, are you okay? How are we going to do? Everything's not perfect. The world is not perfect.
No.
School is not perfect. Your teacher's going to give you an unfair sometimes question or a demand, or a coach or, a referee is going to do something you don't like.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's even a trend today. A lot of, we want to be helpful, but we've been protecting our kids so much that we've forgotten that they need to trust themselves.
Because that's where the resilience and the persistence is built. Like when you zoom out, if our goal as parents is to have a child who can be successful and independent as an adult and love the life they live, and they have the struggles we have. Like I am 33 years old, I think. I'm 33 years old, diagnosed at 11. I'm like not going to pretend like ADHD does not slap me in the face sometimes. And also I can tell you honestly,
it's not perfect.
It's not, but like, it's also not taken back control of my chaos. I've stayed in control of that chaos the whole time. And the reason why is because I know that in the hardest parts and the messiest parts, I have something to learn.
Yeah.
And I trust myself so much to figure that out. Even if I make another mess up, I've learned to trust myself so much that I know that what's on the other side is going to be like the best next step in my life.
Yeah.
And that only happened because I was always allowed to be in that mess.
Yeah.
And I was allowed to figure it out. And
you feel confident in that mess. And
I feel confident in that mess.
And I think what I love is because I know you coach a lot of adults, and you've even coached me personally, and you've done a lot of business coaching as well. On you've got to be okay in that chaos, because that's what it is, whether it's ADHD or life, because I think we're always trying to prevent it. Like, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And how are you going to feel confident, like you've said? And you can either flip that mindset if it's a learning lesson, and I'll be okay if a mistake happens, if I fail, but I'll keep on going.
Yeah.
And I think that's where true business entrepreneurs come from. I think that's where good confidence kids come from. Because if you're struggling with that as yourself as a parent, your kids are going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, like, I just go back to, we hold the key for our kids as parents. And when my kids get to see me in my hardest moments, but then watch my whole process, they're not learning. They're not picking up from me because of what I tell them to do. They're picking up from me from what I do.
Amen, sister.
And so when I'm sitting there and I let it be messy, and I scream or I yell or I have a massive breakdown or whatever it is, but then they watch what comes out on the other side of that, whether it be coming back to the conversation with them or talking like through like where my head's at and what I want to do with it intentionally, all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is how you do that. And so it shows like we get to be messy. We get to have our breakdowns. We get to be in that chaos, but we don't have to let the chaos determine where we go next.
Yeah. Well, also I love is that like, it's okay to be like, hey man, I kind of screwed up. I did scream, but hey, I'm sorry, you know, and I'm going to try again.
All of it.
And because that also teaches our kids to, I'm sorry. You know, it's one thing I love about Sweet Teddy is so many times he'll be like, oh man, I'm sorry. I did that. And because I remember when he first came to see me, I think our sweet boy had about 1 to 2 minutes of attention.
Yes.
And I was like, oh Lord, here we go. And he was just zooming. And I was like, squirrel. Okay. Yes. And then you had this little boy that was sitting down and playing, and it went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 5 to 10 minutes of playing. And all of a sudden it was like, hey, oh man. And there was this whole body connection.
Yes.
And then all the wonderful things that I hear come out of your mouth, like it's coming out of this little 4-year-old's mouth.
Yes.
And he's like, my brain feels this. And we were talking about even picky eating. And he's like, I don't know if I like the way that feels in my mouth, but I'll try it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I love the evolution of when we utilize OT and ADHD coaching, and just working in tandem together. It's just been, it's been an awesome experience with you.
It's so fun. And I think just living it out now as a mom and watching how that's played out with Teddy versus, and like when I say he is my replica. And so when I think about my childhood and like where my parents struggled, and again, I'm a 90s baby, like ADHD was just a diagnosis in the 80s.
Yeah, and we were pacified, boy. Like we were just
100%.
Figure it out and spank it out of you. Is what we were taught.
And there was zero like education that was easy to access around it.
Yeah.
Because the internet also was a newer thing. And so like when I just look at the difference between the two and I watch, and I'm not painting a picture that like this is perfect because it's not, it's never going to be. But when I watch the way he can communicate at 5 years old, I'm just like, wow. And this is why, going back to your medication piece, this is why I'm not anti-medicine, but I am anti-medicine as the fix.
Yeah.
And it's because I took medicine from, I was supposed to take it from 11 to 18. I didn't. But from 18 to about 23, I took it consistently. And that slowed my brain down enough to pick up on all of these systems and this way of being so I could learn it and ingrain this new habit and process to apply it. And then I went off medication. I've been off of it for 12 years now. And I've had 7 pregnancies. Like life is life. And I share that because the thing with medicine is a lot of times we take the approach of like, that's our foundation and we're going to build from it.
Yeah.
But medicine can't be the foundation because as soon as medicine wears off, so does your ability to lock in.
Well, and and I've seen this for a long time that kiddos have come to me with meds, and then they're not growing, they're not gaining weight, and then those meds are immediately and emergently removed. Yes. And then the rebound effects
is wild.
And it's actually been really hard to watch some kiddos that have been on meds from 7 to like 12, 13, 14. And then OT is called in and they have no idea what their body is. They don't know anything about their interoception or their sensory system or self-regulation. And it was the only thing that was given.
Yes.
And I find that a lot here sometimes, that there's a lot of physicians that'll start with medication because a child scores, some schools are just like, oh, they need meds. I'm like, can we look at other things first? And they come to me and they go, well, we really never made progress on meds. Because I go, I don't think it's a brain chemistry issue. This whole entire time, it's been a sensory or a muscle tone or a primitive reflex issue or a lack of self-regulation or co-regulation with your parents.
Yeah.
And you've been on meds for 5-6 years now. We still haven't gained those skills.
Yeah.
I think the problem is there's a lack of balance.
Yeah.
And like you've said, if you're only using one path, I think that's dangerous.
I would completely agree. And when you speak to the brain chemistry issue, the reality to me is lack of dopamine and norepinephrine and the chemicals they're saying. Is that a real thing? Sure. And also there is very much a way to compensate for that without medicine, but it requires the combo of what we do and also knowing externally, like reminders. I will never not be someone who has reminders. My brain will not remember.
Yeah.
Or time management. My brain will not say, oh, hey, here's where we're at. We need to stop. Like I have to have that visual cue.
Gotta have the schedules. Yes.
Yes. But like you combine all of that, and you've taken an approach that sets them up for life, because now they've got this foundation. And the way I look at it is, when you first plant a tree, like I'm gonna call it a baby tree, but like a young
seedling,
tree.
yeah.
No, not even the seed.
Oh,
I
not
think
a
about
seed.
when they built my home,
Yeah.
they put in like trees that were like that big around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're gonna get big, but
Yeah.
and what they did was they put that post on the tree to hold it up, right?
Yeah.
The medicine is the post. And if you're not watering that ground, if you're not, the roots are
Ah,
not taking root.
yeah.
So you sit there and you're like, oh, the tree's had this post for 3 years. I can take it off. And then one storm comes and the tree falls over. Well, it's because we never took care of what was underneath. And
Yeah.
that's the way I look at what we do. Like, we're
That's
here to grow
huge.
those roots. Sometimes the same way, like while the roots are going, we might need that post.
Mhm.
But it's important to realize that the tree is not getting strong with the post. It's what we're doing to the tree that is making it strong enough to hold itself.
I think that's powerful, because I feel like by the time, you know, some of our parents get to us, they're just exhausted. And I mean, this is why we're doing what we're doing today,
Mhm.
is that I'm hoping that you and I can say, hey, mamas, you're on this, your child's on this medicine, but you're still living in this chaotic cycle.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I love about you and I both, because you're like, hey, no, I think you need to go see Tyler, or hey, I think you need to go see Emily, or hey, let's work in tandem here.
Mhm.
Because again, we have to give a child roots, because
Mhm.
at some point, like you said, they're going to be an adult, and that medication's going to be an option or
Mhm.
forgotten. And where are those skills?
Mhm.
And, oh, I love
Especially
you.
my
Yeah.
women, because I'm like, when you have a baby, you can't be on that medicine.
No. Well, I think as women too, and this is one thing we talk a lot about, is that a lot of girls are diagnosed later, and
Yes.
there's a lot of masking that goes on and code switching. And I'm an 80s kiddo, and so I literally was nicknamed Bobbums, because I would bob in my seat.
Mhm.
And you know, and everyone's like, sit down, and I'm like, what do you mean? I
Yeah.
don't know how to. And I look at myself now going, oh yeah, I'm straight up ADHD. I have all these executive functioning challenges. But what I've discovered is that girls are allowed to cry. They're allowed to be disorganized. They're allowed to be emotional. And then by the time they sometimes get to us, they're 9 or 10. And even female autism is diagnosed. And I call female because I do believe that it's a very distinct diagnostic criteria that is missed.
Yeah.
And and that's what also makes me so sad, is that girls are being missed
Mhm.
all the time.
All the time. And so are our boys so the common is, oh, there's like the boy version of ADHD and the girl version of ADHD.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's not true. I had
Yeah.
the boy version. My brother had the girl version.
Isn't that
He was
funny?
diagnosed later
Yeah.
because his presented as anxiety.
Yeah.
And I was diagnosed younger because I was the kid bouncing off the walls. I was the
Yeah,
behavior
that
problem.
part,
Like, I was
yeah.
like the obvious struggle kid.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like the most common misdiagnoses are the bipolar and the anxiety, and even
Yes.
depression, because they're
Mhm.
like, oh no, because it's forgotten that one of the biggest pieces of ADHD is actually the inability to regulate emotions. And if you can't regulate emotions, did you know that emotions literally drive motion? So whatever action you want to take comes from how you feel.
That's
So
true.
if we're feeling overwhelmed, if we're feeling unsure, if we're feeling like this is too much, it's scary, we're going to go paralyzed. We're going to stop. We're going to avoid. But if we're like,
Mhm.
no, I got this, we're going to take that action.
Yeah.
And so if we don't tackle the emotion, then you're not going to see a different action come into play.
Well, the question is, what's the emotion behind the action? Like, what is your
Exactly.
emotion behind what you're doing? And I learned that recently, of stepping back. What is the emotion behind that?
Mhm.
And even asking kids, because then they'll go, I don't know, especially if your autonomic nervous system has lived in fight, flight, or fright, or even
Yep.
sometimes that medication actually kind of drowns it a little bit. It waters
Yes.
it down. And I've had this person in my home to hear that sometimes, quote unquote, that medication makes me feel
Yeah.
kind of zombie fight again, and not against it, but I don't know how this feels.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I did what I did. And I think
Yep.
then hence the anxiety. I can't control what goes on in my brain. I don't know how
Yes.
I feel. And then if I can't trust myself, how do I trust the world?
Yes.
That's debilitating.
Debilitating.
And we've got, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old little girls walking around, or boys just going, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you trust that?
Exactly. And if you don't know, you're not taught the skill set of how to identify it either.
Don't know, you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like the number one thing we do in coaching, and this is what we teach parents how to do, because this is where the power lies, is how do we answer the question of what emotion am I feeling, and what do I want to do with that information, and how do I know that's what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Because when you can answer that, you can begin to be way more intentional and rewire what path you take.
You know, it's so crazy because what I do in my assessments when with little kids, and this kind of leads up to understanding your emotions, I'll say, hey, can you draw me a picture of you? And this is where I want to do research one of these days when like I have time and I don't have 3 or 4 kids playing college sports and, you know, married, I'm newly married and I'm
All
running
the
around all the
things.
things for this business. But what I've discovered is that one of the first signs of my kiddos that do not have that interoception or understand their body awareness, I go, draw me a picture of you. And they go, what? And the panic, I can't, it's
Yeah.
hard. Or I get to see this body and there's no like hands or fingers or ears.
Yeah.
And I go, my goodness, like you're walking around, no idea how you're even connected. But yeah, then we go, well, let's talk about our feelings. Well, if you can't feel your tummy and you can't feel your throat, that gives you clues that you're feeling anxious or mad, or can't even feel where your butt is in the chair, God love your heart, and then you're falling out of the chair. How can we talk about our feelings? And this is where kids go, they get angry, right? Or they tantrum because you don't even know where you are in space. So I tell all my moms, like, have your kiddo draw a picture. And it's funny because what I discovered is like the ears aren't there. The feet aren't there. Sometimes there's no tummy. And you're like, I don't have ears. Therefore, how do I hear my mom? I don't know where my hands are, but I've got trouble for touching somebody.
Yeah.
Because, ooh. And so I think that's a huge piece of, you know, if you don't know where you are in space, you don't have emotions. No.
That's why we work together great.
Yeah.
Gotta be
Well, we have talked for like ever today. So guys, thank you so much. I'm going to be breaking this up in lots of different pieces, but Tyler Dorsey is the owner of Focus Forward, and she is an ADHD coach. But what I love as well is she brings her personal life experience to the table, guys. So check her out. I know she's got an amazing website. She's also on Facebook and social media a lot. Lots of helpful hints. But thank you. And hey, Mama, how you doing? We'll see y'all later. Bye.